HTC has launched its two new Windows Phone 8 smartphones. The awkwardly named Windows Phone 8X by HTC has a 4.3-inch 720p HD screen, a 1.5 GHz processor with 1 GB of RAM, 16 GB internal memory, the same decent 8 megapixel camera as the Android running One X, i.e. an f2.0 lens and a BSI sensor, and comes in a selection of brightly coloured polycarbonate casings. The other phone is the 8S, kind of mirroring the Android Power 1S with a smaller 4-inch 800 by 480 screen. The dual-core processor is rated at 1 GHz and RAM is just 512 MB, plus 4 GB of mass storage. Don't panic though, just as with Nokia's smaller Windows Phone 8 device, you can expand this storage with micro SD. The bewildering array of phone launches over the last month has probably left you and me reeling. The Apple iPhone 5 currently being unboxed around the world, and yes, I'm in the queue for a review unit. The Motorola Razr HD Max, the Nokia Lumia 920, HTC 8X, LG Optimus G, Samsung Galaxy S2, 3, and Note 2, and so on. So many touch slabs, so few unique features, so many iterations on basic ideas. All good and great, but why should you change from your current phone? And how could you choose? Surely 95% of the functions are the same. I do try and highlight pros and cons in each of my reviews. I try and train you, the viewer, to spot some of these things for yourself in spec sheets, in shops, and in the hands of your friends. And I've got two thoughts for you to take away from this little editorial from the current tsunami of phone hardware releases. Firstly, look for unique selling points. Given that 95% of the functionality is either identical or equivalent, and leaving aside that you may have a size preference, look for a single unique function or feature. For example, Samsung Galaxy Note 2 has that huge screen, an improved inductive S Pen, and lots of software tweaks to go with it. Do you fancy using a stylus? Or the Motorola Razr Max that I liked, with its enormous battery, I mean you never ever again have to worry about losing power before the end of a calendar day. Or the Nokia 808 PureView shooting this very phone show with that monstrous 41 megapixel camera and near optical quality zoom, and Motorhead gig level rich recording, or its new sister device over on Windows Phone 8, the Lumia 920, with its optical image stabilization, a first in a phone, and the same rich recording system. Or the now rather cheap Galaxy Nexus, its unique selling point, 100% guarantee that no manufacturer has stuck their oar in or added cruft into the interface or app set. Though do watch out for new Nexus hardware coming your way quite shortly. I'll be here to feature it. Or physical unique selling points. QWERTY sliders may be going out of fashion faster than Pink Floyd, but there's still a really interesting niche, I think, in QWERTY candy bars here. The BlackBerry Bold 9900 and the Nokia E6, which is a bit of a staple of mine. The screens may be on the titchy side, but you can't beat the feel of keys under your fingers when hammering out social updates and replies to emails. My second thought is even simpler. It's so easy to get caught up in a never-ending phone tech lust. What am I going to get next? When's my upgrade due? We can lose perspective that these things are just phones or pocket computers or whatever you want to call them. Did you see the Samsung ad against the iPhone 5 and then the iPhone fan-made response, and then someone else mopped up a third in the series with just the two phone pictures, and I paraphrase slightly, it's just a phone, choose one and be happy. So give serious consideration to just getting on with your life and not being dismayed by the current tsunami of hardware. They are just phones, you know, and I'll give them the full review treatment as and when they're available. There's really no hurry. Oh, and don't forget my interactive grid, which is always worth a shot, over on the 3Lib site. It has to be said that on the phone show I do like to review phones which are both expensive and top end and cheap and low end. Not all of us are in regular employment or on a high wage. In particular, how far can devices like this, the £70 Vodafone Smart II, go when it comes to a full phone and smartphone experience? It's true we're talking near the bottom of the Android food chain, so I'll keep this fairly brief, but there's a really solid here, high quality plastic build, actually surprising when you take the back off to reveal a network personalization panel. We're talking a 3.2-inch HVGA capacitive touchscreen, a surprisingly sprightly 800 MHz or so processor. Everything just zips along nicely. The Smart II, actually made by Alcatel under Vodafone specification, runs more or less stock Android 2.3.7 as far as I can tell, with the perfect combination, i.e. customised with widgets and wallpapers galore, but nothing you can't remove if you don't like it. Everything that's added here is down to the whims of Vodafone, from a My Vodafone widget to a rather nice time and weather one to Vodafone Travel, a decent itinerary manager. Also notable here is App Select, a curated application store that's implemented superbly apart from being device specific and also separate from the main Android Play Store. So, for example, cut the rope here. If I buy this, it won't be available on a future handset. I'm sorry, that's a bit of a fail, however laudable the idea of curation is. Everything else is box standard Android as Google spits it out. This does have some downsides though. While I appreciate the likes of Google Maps, the default selection of video codecs in bog standard Android is terrible, and Alcatel haven't bothered to license anymore, so most of my test videos wouldn't play. Of the ones that did, and for podcasts, I found the speaker on the Smart II to have fantastic fidelity. Really quite good frequency response, but way too quiet. This is maximum volume. Even more annoying when using the Google navigation function, as I found it almost impossible to hear any of the instructions. Sadly, the budget components here are also shown up in the choice of screen tech. It may look fine here on camera, but it's the cheapest TFT and completely unusable outdoors if the sun comes out. And it's the choice of camera module too, from OK snaps in bright sunlight, if you're lucky, to colour mangled shots like this, to the most appalling monstrosities in low light. And video captures at 2006 spec of VGA resolution at 15 frames a second. With a 3.2-inch screen, text input even in landscape mode here is fiddly in the extreme, but happily Vodafone has licensed Swipe. Not something I'm normally a big fan of, but it works well enough here for quick and pleasant casual text. As with the likes of the T-Mobile Pulse Mini about a year or so ago, this is a decent enough first Android phone for someone on a strict budget, and worthy of mention for this very reason. But if it were my wife, or my daughter, or my friend, I'd advise them to find another £20 or so and go for the Huawei Ascend G300, with much larger and clearer screen and higher specs across the range.